This is my third consultation call with Trade Brigade, and this is going to be episode 3, part 7 of the new series I'm making. In this video, Trade Brigade is going to be discussing with me the concept of leaving runners. And for those of you that don't know what it means to leave runners, especially for those that are beginning traders, it just basically means that, so take an example. Say you enter in with 20 contracts. You hit your target, the first target, and you've done 10 of those contracts, but you want to keep some contracts because you want the targets to keep going and you want the contracts to keep going in the direction of your trade. The first 10 contracts are dumped, the remaining 10 are what you consider the runners. So it's important to be able to do this and to be able to know how to use runners properly in according with your personal strategy and personality, because there's an offensive and a defensive portion to it. It's offensive because it helps you maximize percent returns and capital gain. And it's defensive because it helps you lock in some wins. So even if you do lose and it goes in the opposite direction, at least you go with something break even. The loss may be even smaller, or at least you go away with a small to medium sized win. But again, you got to know how to do this properly in order to maximize your day trading career. And again, through 2 years of my experience, I've really been learning to hone in. I'm currently, my position size that I trade with is 8 contracts for a small scalp, 12 contracts for a potential, and I have some belief that it will run, and then 20 contracts with my full position size. I really know, and I'm really getting better with learning how to take care of the offensive and the defensive portions of utilizing your runners. And again, this isn't just my advice. This is from Trade Brigade's advice. He has over 12 years of experience, and he gave me all this knowledge through these consultation calls and his YouTube channel. So with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe to Day-Trading Knockouts. Stay safe, stay green. See you all in the video. Peace out to my fellow millionaire day traders.
All right, so let's talk about runners, right? Because this I think could be interesting for like the next stage of growing the account instead of just kind of stagnating. Now, you can grow an account with one contract per trade, as long as, again, the math works out at the end of the day. But to allow yourself the opportunity of larger trades unfolding, like, let's consider this. If we think back to the Friday trade, let's pretend that you had 2 contracts. And I'm not saying that you should go out there, and I'm not saying that you should just start, increasing size just because it allows for runners, but obviously there's more flexibility when there's no black and white. It's not that you have to be all in or all out, right? So consider this, right? The trade's working, right? You get your breakout here. You're pretty confident. The internals, they're looking pretty strong. We're getting a pullback consolidation for the afternoon. What if you just lighten the load and you sold 1 contract here and you kept your stop there, right?
That would have helped.
Exactly. So the concept of the runner just shows us that you can still hold a position, but you can reduce your risk, right?
Mhm.
By cutting the position in half. You can cut the position, in quarters, whatever metric based on your confidence in the market. And once again, this is something that I would encourage you to only do once you've built the data set of your strategy based on staying with the original risk reward of any given trade, right? Get the, could be 100, could be 1,000, whatever your number is, to build confidence in your system and setup. Build the confidence with these trades, not adjusting, stop loss higher, or, tinkering with those types of things, taking profit early. None of that, because then you won't know if the risk reward and the strategy work together, right? Because they have to work together. Those 2 numbers complement one another. But once you have the data set and you're like, okay, I know that it makes sense, and I'm taking good trades, they're working out, but I'm still like I'm not seeing that huge. I shouldn't say huge, because of course it'd be nice to have huge wins all the time, but I'm not getting those big wins maybe once a month or once every 2 months, because they don't happen every day. Let's be very clear about that.
Yeah.
There's no home run, and that.
Yeah.
So the concept of the runner just allows you to keep some skin in the game, and not be all in or all out. And once again, only based on market context and how aggressive the market's moving for that particular day would you want to consider trimming, and to what degree. Again, trim half the position, trim a quarter of the position, whatever the size allows for, basically. So here, right, what you could have done is, this is the original. I'll just leave this off to the left. That's the original risk reward. And this is 2 contracts, full size. Now, as this pulls back here, technically, if you stop out of one, this is just a visual. Obviously, this is not literally what would happen with your position, but effectively, you've just done this with your risk, right? So now this and this, oops, where's half? Half, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you certainly limit your downside, but you're still in the game instead of just being all out. That's basically that's the key here. Obviously, you're not going to make the same upside with one contract versus two, but you're still potentially in there, and the risk reward still makes sense. That's, I suppose, when it's all boiled down at the end of the day. If you mitigate and take some risk off the table, your upside won't be, even if, again, because in theory, right, this is the effect of reducing the trade by half in terms of size, but this is still the target and stop, right? So that's how you think about, or at least that's how I think about limiting how much damage can be done on a trade, not being all in versus all out. Like, sure, you're not going to, it's not going to feel as good hitting this with one contract versus two, but hitting it in the first place should feel much better than never hitting it at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the key component there. So when the data set is built, when you have the confidence in the strategy, that's where I would start throwing in the second contract there. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to, again, in this instance, it could have been trim one here. Another potential way that you could have done this, right, is here's our original risk reward. If we did something that looks like this, we know that that's the original setup. You have two contracts here. If you see this pullback and it's making you uncomfortable, say that you did have, in theory, the idea to hold through that move lower. If you were to trim one contract here per se, and get rid of one, now all of a sudden your risk is less as well, because you're still not holding that second contract all the way down to here. So once again, your effective stop loss, we should say, would be here. And if the target still remains up here, you're now, what would it be? It would be half of this, which is here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So don't get too caught up in the math. Like, doing this as the trade is literally unfolding probably doesn't make much sense, to be like, splitting the difference between these two things, but just understanding how you're manipulating the trade position as a whole is certainly important. And the idea of, limiting your downside by reducing the position size certainly makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, like,